So you're live.
Hello. Hello, if there is someone on the other side, hello. My name is Sophie Klesen. I go by SOMK, doing illustrations, and mostly based on illuminating techniques. Sorry for my English, it's a bit rusty. As people don't really know me, because I'm not like a big star or anything, I would like to show you a few of the pieces I've done. So you see, I work mainly with the same techniques as someone from the 15th century would do. So thank you, the glare, fantastic glare. Here we are. Yeah, see, so you can have things like this, or you can go to my website. Anyway, so even when I do something a bit weird or a bit funny, I try to do it very seriously as far as techniques is concerned. So even if I go for something science fiction, I will work like a 14th or 15th century monk, meaning pigments, most of the time on real vellum. And I do my own pigments, I do my own paints with different mediums, depending on the subject and everything. So I can do, in the same technique, things way more modern, actually. I think I'm one of the very few doing a circuit board in gold leaf, but it works. Actually, it really works because gold is a good conductor. So yeah. Otherwise, I do a lot of watercolors, like those dragons. It's part of a small book I'm making, actually, called The Adorable Pest, where dragons with me are either very huge and you can't approach them, or very, very small, like chickens, and always in your feet. So those are a few ones. I do some huge things as well, but this one is in size of postcard, but this is a huge painting that was sold, I think, in July. It's part of an ongoing book of mine as well. So you see, more or less, I do a lot of illumination techniques painting, but the subjects are not really historical. They are more science fiction-ish or fantasy. So without further ado, I will change the camera and we'll go back here so I can show you some stuff. I think I would like to talk to you about pigments, about making your own pigments with plants, because it's spring. Maybe a bit less in Canada, but yeah, it's sort of spring, and you can make your own pigments with flowers you find outside, and I paint with those. So I will show you a few of them, and we will finish maybe with some gilding, where I'll be gilding a piece I started a few days ago. See, I already gild the gold flat, but not the raised gesso, and I will talk to you about that. So now you know if you want to stay in or if you want to run away. I'm changing the camera. Tink. And voila. Sorry, it will be a bit wobbly for 2 or 3 minutes because it's not a very good support, but here we are. Dun, dun, dun. So I was talking about plants. Outside, you find easily these days iris. Iris, you know iris, it's a beautiful violet color. If you pick up those petals, the darkest you can find, and you take about, I don't know, let's say 2 hands full of petals, and you put them in a saucepan with 20 millimeters of water, and you gently, please, simmer them. You can help with maybe a few drops of alcohol inside. Could be rubbing, or it could be 90% alcohol. Is not a big problem. You will end up with something like this. I put them in small, in small boxes like this, because I'd like to keep them in order not to get spoiled over time. I had some sugar, because sugar is very nice, and I add some clove oils. Clove oils help you. It's an antifungal, so you just keep them all the way with that. And the color. Dun, dun. See, I have this one. This one maybe will be. You have 2 different. So So it's very sticky because I have sugar in there, but see this? Ain't that awesome? That is awesome. It's a beautiful blue-violet that will react depending on your support, because iris is violet because it's acidic. If you add something to lower the pH, and for instance, like natron being an hydrated sodium carbonate, if you add natron, you will go to a green. So I show you this, I did it here. So you had the iris and iris with natron. Dun, dun, dun. So it is exactly the same plant, exactly the same process, but you have some, you just have a few drops of something else. If you go neutral in pH, it will be green. If you go acidic, it will stay blue or violet. It's part of those plants that contains anthocyane. And anthocyane just change depending on pH. You have the same thing with red cabbage. You have the same thing with, strangely enough, nettles. Nettles do the same thing because nettles are yellow-greenish when you do the first mix. And when you add some natron, you've got, I just had a small spot here of natron and it turns red. So you can do a lot of funny things. You can paint, for instance, with one color and take just a brush and paint with a solution of natron, and you will have another color. In there, you see, I had the blue one, which is the basic color, and when you add natron, you've got a very, very vivid green. So you can do a lot of things with that. What did I make last time as well? I made iris, I made blue peas, because sometimes iris, it's difficult to find them, especially in Canada. I know I was running after them, but you can buy blue peas through Amazon, don't say it. And blue pea is, in fact, it's a tea. It's a tea that's not very nice. It's sort of lemony nothing, but it's blue. It's really blue, and it changes color depending on the acidity of the water. So you can have something going through from a violet to super electric blue, and that's funny as well. So when your iris is a bit meh, you can play with blue peas, and it's perfect as well. It's a very nice color too. See, I have problems with my camera here. That is, see. So, and it has exactly the same reaction with natron. It will turn bright green. I think that the pea will give you more of an English green, and the iris will give you a very vivid green. So it's up to you to play. What's interesting with plant-based colors is that you never really get twice the same thing. So you can make a few boxes like this for you to use throughout the year, but you're not sure that next year you will get the same color. So I just tell people to make one or two at least, so they don't run short, because you will never be able to make twice the same color. The fugacity of the thing is, in my opinion, the most interesting thing. Of course, maybe in 50 years, this blue will not be blue. This blue will be probably greenish. But that's the joy of playing with something that is biological. If you want something that will not move throughout centuries, you will use something mineral. If you want some blue, you will take, I don't know, lapis lazuli or things like that. But if you accept that this is a living color, it will change. You will maybe not change in your own life, but it will change. That's a fun, actually, and you do it from something you find outside, which is even better. So the other colors I did were the pea, the iris, sophora, and genêt. Genêt in English is broom, because it's now or never, I mean, and the yellow is fantastic. You can have, if you don't have either sophora, which is a tree, or baume, you can find curcumina, le curcuma in French, curcumina in English. you can do this. Or if you want something a bit more orangey, you have onions. It works as well. This is gold. Gold is more historical pigment than everything. You don't find it that easily. This one you have paprika. Paprika is pepper, not black pepper, red pepper, dehydrated red pepper. So you can have a super nice color. Nettles. This one, I confess, is not mine, because making color with nettles is a bit complicated, considering you just don't have to crush it with water and alcohol and then distill and then obtain something you can use. It's really a chemical process. And I tried and I failed miserably. So this one is from Crémer pigment. Crémer being the god of pigments on earth. I think everything comes from Crémer. And a few years ago, he did some botanical-based pigment, and he stopped because, as he told it eloquently, it's crazy, and it's never twice the same thing. So he did a few bottles, and he went this way and doing something else. But of course, I bought nearly everything. So this is fantastic. I still have some nettles. If you want to try and do it the simple way, you will have something which is some kind of a greenish, but you will have way more chlorophyll than you will have some pigments from nettles. And if you want to deal with chlorophyll, I really urge you to try spinach, because spinach are easy. Spinach, you take spinach, you crush them with a little bit of alcohol to help the colors to get out of the cells of the plant, and then some water, and then you macerate it. I'm a strong believer that you have to take time. Don't throw that in the microwave or boil it or anything. Just lukewarm water, and you let it overnight, and in the morning you will have something super, super dense in color, and you filter it with a coffee filter or anything, and you get a fantastic juice. And this juice, you can use it as is. You can use it with lowering the pH, or make it more acidic if you want to play with that, and block it with, I don't know, with sugar, with clove oils. If you want something with a bit more texture, you can use any sort of clay that will bind the pigments into something more opaque. You see, so it's chemistry more or less, but it's a bit of we will see how it goes chemistry. It's not something written in rocks. The last one is another one with anthocyanin. It's cabbage. So the cabbage is red, of course. When it goes neutral and basic, it will turn really blue. So this is beautiful color and super easy to make. Super easy to make if you have kids and stuff. Why doing paintings with plants? Well, it's non-toxic. So it's fantastic to play with kids or with animals around. It's a pleasure to tell you you've made something from A to Z. This one is another one I did not speak about. It's gardenia. Gardenia is a flower, so it's an orange flower, and the result is pretty nice, actually. The thing is, if you want to keep them in small things like this, small cups like this, you will have to add some kind of a binding agent. If you use only sugar, this one worked actually. It's still sticky. I don't know how it will end up when it's totally dry, but I will use them before it's dry anyway. You will need some binding agent, something to give it a bit more of a body. And the best idea so far for me is eggshell white. It's a crushed eggshell, and it's super white, but it's slightly translucent, meaning when you mix it with a color you made with plants, it will not turn the color to another one. If you use, for instance, titane or zinc white with a pigment made with spinach, you will not have a dark green finish. You will have something light green, because titane and zinc will turn the colors super light. But eggshell white being slightly translucent, you will minimize the problem. So yeah, once again, you have to try. So what do I do with this? I did this, for instance. This was a previous piece I made. It's loosely based on Iranian lacquer box design, which is the bird and the flowers, and all around it's a bit of my stuff with dragons and wyverns, to be precise. And I'm actually working on the two next one, which is this one, which is in progress. So you see here, I've already blocked the colors. The greens are iris, this is a broom, and the red one are paprika. So I'm slowly building this. And I'm working on this nearly every day on Instagram, or we're on Zoom sometimes, but mostly Instagram, because my connection is super dodgy and Instagram is good with me. So if you want to follow this one, just have a look at my Instagram every day around, I don't know, it's 8 p.m. here, so it's 2 p.m. 2 p.m. East. Here we are. So as an illuminator, my main pleasure is working with gold, of course. I know that this is sent to YouTube. You're surely following all this on YouTube, and you have a comment section. What I would like you to do, if you have questions, is to ask them over there, and at the end I will read and answer, because as I said, my connection is very, very poor, and if I connect on YouTube at the same time as I'm on Zoom, I will disappear. So just please ask your question, and I will do my best in the end to answer everything. And you can ask questions through Instagram or Facebook or anywhere you want, really. I have no life, I'm always connected. So this is something I made for a previous demonstration, but I will show you anyway. This is the letter A, actually, with a lot of design. This is strictly 14th, 15th century design French. It's not very modern or anything. This is really reenactment. And I was showing how to gild even on a paper like this. Usually you want a paper to be as flat and as smooth as possible. I always recommend hot press 300-pound paper at the minimum. Even better if you have some vellum, vellum like this one, for instance. This is very nice stuff. This is fantastic, and it's maybe pricey, but it's way easier to work on this when you're doing gold than working on paper. Meaning, if you do a mistake, you can scrape it off. You just on paper you can't scrape nothing. So, as you can see here, you have something in raised. You have some gold that is really gilded flat, and you have some red dots which are gesso, not the gesso you buy, of course, in the shops. It's not gesso to prepare a painting, it's gesso for illuminating, meaning it's a mix of dead plaster, sugar rock candy, Armenia ball, fish glue or parchment glue, and lead white. So I make my own, and I store it as well, because this dries like a rock, so it's super easy to keep, and you just reactivate it adding some water. So I have a lot of things like this, you see. Some are very light in color, some are a bit more reddish. Why? Because when you work on something white, it's super nice to see where you're putting no glue. So at least I see it. And sometimes when actual gold leaf is not very good. It's very thin. You have like 3 molecules of gold on top of one another, and having something red underneath just pops up the gold, you know. This one is very delicate. It's slightly pink. It's way finer, meaning I will not have to burnish it too much. Here is the problem with gesso. Gesso is a mix of glue and plaster, and those two things don't really like each other. What happens is the plaster will set and the glue will stay on top, which is nice because you want to put some gold in there. So if you have some glue and you put the gold, it will stick. Problem comes when your gesso is not either high enough in glue, or if the mix is too homogene, is too mixed, is too perfect. You will have something that has plaster and glue, but not enough glue to make it stick, and not enough plaster to make it solid, because glue will never be rock hard. So it's sort of difficult to do. So if you make your own gesso, you will probably have to try several times to get the right mix. But if you're lazy, and you're totally okay to be lazy, you can find some online. In the US, you have Jerry Tresser from, I think he sells on John Neal Bookseller. Does a fantastic gesso. And if you're in Europe, I will advise you to buy things from Le Calligraphe, which is a gesso in a tube, meaning it's already at the right consistence. It's just like a pancake paste. It's beautiful. So you have different. The difference with gilding flat or gilding raised is that gilding flat will give you something quite subdued. You have times where you don't see the gold, and sometimes it blinks. Gilding raised, you will always have the bling on, because as it is a volume, the light will always reflect on the gold. The good quality of the gesso is its surface. You want it to be as smooth as possible. So when you apply the gesso and let it dry, sometimes it's overnight, sometimes it's just 2 or 3 hours. It will depend on the humidity in your place. You will have anyway to burnish it. This is your best friend. This is a burnisher. A burnisher is to make the surface where you will gild, where you will apply the gold leaf, as smooth as possible. Because if it's not very smooth and very perfect, when you apply the gold, it will be 10 times worse. Gold will not help you. So usually when you apply this, you then go back to your little bits and you polish them very carefully, not too strong, as to go through the layer of glue and then destroy everything, because it can happen. So you do this. I always say that when you gild something in volume, 90% of the work is in the gesso. Laying gold on top of it is just a pleasure. It's not. You see, when you do it, have a look. See, this one is super shiny. This one is a gesso. And then you can burnish it. Meaning when you have your gold leaf on top and it's dry, you just go back over the gold leaf and you burnish it, and everything is perfectly flat and smooth and super bright. That's interesting. You cannot really burnish something flat, because the glue, the size you use under the flat gilding is usually something more like a PVA glue cut with water, and PVA is always a bit spongy, and if you burnish, you will probably add some defect to the thing. So yeah, you just apply the. I will show you because, oh my god, I'm speaking a lot, but I'm not showing much, so I will do it. Of course, good workmanship, and I'm looking for my glue. Here it is. You have several ways to have some glue for gilding flat. You either buy something super expensive like this, like Ormoline, which is from Robertson, I think it's English, or you have, once again, through John Neal and Jerry Tresser, very, very nice stuff over there. Depending on the paper, I always say you have one layer for the paper and one layer for the gold. So I will just apply. I can do the demo live because it dries very fast and it's very hot here. I'm sorry, I'm not in Canada, I'm in France, and I know we're in April, but it looks like we're in June or July already. So I will take something a bit delicate because I have to do some details, but I will do it here. Working with glue is not really painting, it's more putting a dollop of glue and then stretching it to the place you want. I know my paper and I know my glue, so I will just need one layer, depending on the paper and the glue. If the glue is super diluted, for instance, you would need two. even 3, but I know my stuff, so I will just add 1. See, I do a dollop, and then I use it as a pool to stretch it and do. I would advise you against doing several times at the same place, because you will reactivate the fiber of the paper underneath. Things that will never happen if you use a vellum, for instance. But on paper, it's something a bit, wavy. Wavy. I know this question will appear in the commentary section, but you're working with something very, very wet and very sticky, and you will apply gold, and you will push on it and everything, and your paper will buckle. How do you prevent that? You prevent that by first working with something very thick, be it an artboard, fantastic. 300 pounds paper, hot press are fantastic. I have a 600 pounds paper. It's a beauty. It's really cardboard. It's super white. It's from, I don't know who made it. No, it will come back. And or you can stretch your paper. This is always a very, very good habit. I mean, for be you watercolorist or illuminator, stretching your paper, meaning humidify it, stretch it on the board, and then let it dry as is, and you will have something super, super smooth and super flat, and that will not react to water. So it's another. I say this because, not because I'm totally crazy about techniques, but illuminating manuscripts and gilding takes a long time, and you don't want, after, I don't know, 80 hours of work, to have something totally ruined because you forgot something at the first stage. So please be gentle with yourself and don't go crazy, and prepare. I always say to students that illuminating manuscripts, it's a trade. It's something you learn. It's a technique. It's not something out of the blue and totally mystic. It's workmanship. You can be a good workman, so this is the glue. I will just do this little bit just so you see what happens when you gild flat, and then I will gild raised after that. So we let it dry, and I'm going to get some gold. Gold, you have several types, of course, always. You have the easiest one is this one, and this one is horrible gold, which is that gold adhere to gold. When you want to add layers of gold on top of another one because you think it would be better with more gold, it will just stick by itself. You don't have to add some glue between 2 layers of gold. All it needs is pressure and warmth. That kind of glue or that kind of gesso will be reactivated by heat, not specially by humidity, but by heat. If your hands are warm enough, when you apply the gold, the heat from here will transfer and it will stick to the gold or to the gesso. Especially for people in Canada or in cold countries, I always recommend to wash your hands till they are bright red, like lobsters, and you come back to your table and you will stick everything. That will be just fantastic. So here, I will say it's okay because time is flying by and I'm super locative. So I will cut a bit here. I will cut this. Dun, dun, dun. Take extra care when you apply the gold, not to stick the glue onto the paper. Otherwise, in the best of case, it will go thick and you will take it off. Otherwise, it will pull the glue off the paper and you will cry. So don't do this. Why do I know that? Because I did it. So I'm looking for something that I can't find because I'm. Usually, you will have to use something to put between your finger and this. I use the sleeves of paper you have in the booklets where the gold leaf comes from. Once again, take extra care not to put this on the size. So I will show you. If it's not warm enough, you can blow onto this. You will blow onto this using, if possible, a small cone of cardboard you will make. So you will be able to be very, very close and to blow with the air coming from as far as possible from the belly rather than just from the nose, because you want something quite dry but hot. And this is why as well I use cardboard rather than plastic, because plastic will condense the humidity and you end up with some kind of drop of saliva coming down here, and it's not a good idea. So cardboard it is. Here I can tell you it's no use because it's super warm and my hands are warm, so I will just do it like this. So I would advise when you do something big to take small pieces and do it very precisely. Here I will just go ta-da, because I know, see, tuck, 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 here. What I like is applying from up to down, like this. With this part, I'm spoiling the thing. With this, because this is very soft, this is very warm, and you will not rip. If you use the thumb, it's okay too. It's okay too if you really apply it vertically, but do not use those tips. You will rip it off, and then you will cry as well. So let's say you didn't see it, and you take the paper off, and voila. And it's not super, missed a little bit here. Voilà. See? So you have a lot of extra because the gold is adhering to the glue, but it's still, it still exists outside. So you have little bits into it. You let it like this. Usually when I do a big piece like that, I do every bit of gold, I gild everything, and I leave it alone. I usually put this on the side and work on another plate. Here we're doing a demo, so I will show you right away. But as always, take your time with this. You take a very, very soft brush, and then you, voila, and voila. And the gold stays where the glue is still. That's it. What happens if you do a boo-boo and there is a bit of gold sticking, and because you had a bit of glue, you cry. On paper, you cry. On, on vellum, you can scrape it off, but on paper, you can't do anything. If at the beginning you have, at the beginning, especially when you're a beginner illuminator, you will maybe not have edges super, super clean. And when you are going to paint your letter in color, it will maybe be too thin. Don't worry, because when preparing your paint, you can totally find a way to make it adhere to gold. So in the worst case, you will just go over the gold and everything will be okay. So don't you worry about that, especially in this style. In this style, you really have to worry about one thing, is the little leaves, because the little leaves are on the white background and they will stay on the white background. So you can't have them malformed or too big or with a big mistake in there. So that's it. So I will do the rest of the letter. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comment section. The glue, please, the glue, when you use your pen, your brush to paint, par pitié, as you say, pity, wash it every time. I dip it, I do maybe one or two strokes, and I clean it. I always have some water on the side, because otherwise you will have a toothpick and by the end of the day, and you will risk bankruptcy, because those things are super expensive. And those brushes, you want to keep them as good as you can. I usually keep my brushes more than 1 year, because I'm paranoid, and I wash them every night, and I'm off screen. Fantastic. I wash them every night, and at least I can keep them all right. What kind of brushes do I use? Because it's usually questions that's been asked. I'm totally in love with Princeton. It's an American brand, and it's very difficult to find here, so I have to buy bulk and have them ship it to me. Why? Because they are acrylic, they are synthetic brushes. It's not real fur. It's pretty tough, actually. They are super short and they have a round butt, which is fantastic when you want to mix things like colors. And when they fall off your table, because they always fall off your table, they end up like this and not on the brush. They have everything from a monogram to liners to spotters to filberts. And this one is a 20-0, which is rather small. And they have a very, very good point, which is why I love them, especially for something that is synthetic. It's a really, really, really good thing. So Princeton it is. And this one is even a cheap Princeton because they have several categories. And I know that these ones are more expensive. See the black ones, they are art brush. This is 3050 or 3050 is a collection, and this one is 3750, and this one is way less expensive. So I use them for glue, because glue is a terrible material. It's super dangerous. So no need to use something too pricey to do that. But still, you want something very precise, because don't hesitate to rotate your plate. I always tape my paper onto a plate like that, because you only have a few precise movement in your hand, which is usually this one, but the other ones are a bit more clumsy. So you just turn your plate around, and then you have a good movement to your, be it in painting or in glue. Actually, it's the same thing. So I will finish that and try not to spill the glue like usual. See, I put a dollop and I stretch on it. I'm sorry, there's no music in the background, because last time I did that, I got scolded by Instagram telling me, you should not use copyrighted music. I didn't even think about it. So I've been looking for copyright-free music, and they mostly suck. So I don't know. I will not sing. Promise, I will not. So here we are. But you're lucky, because my cat is not meowing his head off like he usually is when I'm live. I don't know why. I think it's, please take care of me. Stop speaking to people. Yeah. So I will do it thinner here, because it's not very elegant, actually. Now I have to think about the letter that's inside, so I'm trying to keep it a bit like a normal A. So here we are. I will not do the middle. I will not do the middle, because I need to draw the vines in there. As it is something like 14th, 15th century, you will have some overlapping vines in red and blue inside, but all the around will be gold. So I will do this. And then we will gild a bit of raised gesso. 42, 53 minutes. Oh my God, it's going fast. I'm checking the time, but so it's not totally dry. So I will deal with the gesso, for instance. So let's say, pull this one. Yeah, this one. Cute one. So it's rather flat because I burnished it a lot. And I will go, well, I say, in Canada, when I was teaching people, I say you have to call the moose. It's the mating call for the moose. You blow from your belly, so you will have to make a sound to be sure it comes from the right place. And the only sound you can do is this one. Okay, I know it attracts moose, but I mean, what do you want? If you want to do nice gilding, you do what you have to do. Okay. You're not supposed to do that all the time. You can blow normally as well. When you work in a place that's cold, you will see that the gesso or the glue will slightly change color when you do this, and when it's ready to be So I will press, I really press. When you have something bigger to do, I always advise people to stand up and then press with your hands here. Here I'm sitting and I'm just pressing like this. And you just see a lot of gold is staying because I pressed a lot. Under this gold, you have one layer of glue and plaster mixed, and I've blown on it, and there is humidity and there is heat, and it's nothing like the little blob it was before. It's something pretty soft. So I will tell you not to touch it and go around and do something else, like another blob, for instance. I did blow, and I know it will stick because it's still warm. See? So I will do another one here, for instance. Ah, see, didn't blow, didn't work. Do what I tell you and not what I do. Story of my life. See? I don't know how close I can get to with this thing. See, here, there. You have the little blob and you have very little extra leaf. What you can do if you're super cheap, like I am, you take a mini brush and you will fold the extra gold on top of the blob. Yes, you can do that because gold adheres to gold. So you just go up and you apply it again on top of it. So you don't, and you press again. And then you have several layers of gold, very slowly. You can do the same thing here. I have a lot of spare gold, so I can just fold it over my little bowl. This is maybe a bit too much. Come here. Sometimes people ask me, can I keep the gold? Yeah, if you use loose leaf, yeah, it's thick enough. You can keep the gold and you can do something pretty cool with it. You can make paint. With transfer gold, really, it's a very low quality. I will not advise you to do it. It's worth nothing. So here we are. So I will just show you this one. Usually I would let it like this for at least 1 or 2 hours, but I will show you here. See, the gold just stick to the gesso. And this gesso is pretty dull because we've pressed on it and everything. But when it's dry and when the gesso underneath is dry, you can just burnish it. You can burnish it through a paper first if you're afraid, and then burnish it live like this, and it will go super, super bright. See? Ta-da. Voilà. So I think it's 47. Yeah, we're more or less. I will finish the thing here. We're really in a hurry, so I will just go blue. Oh yeah, I know. Don't do what I do. Use your thumb. And wow. And if you want to be pretty sure everything is in place, you can use paper like this and press like that. So you're sure the gold is at the right place, and then and voila. And voila. So when you try to work with loose leaf, which is a bit more complicated because you will need a cushion and you will need a knife. But the gold will be way better. Actually, it will be thicker and better, and you can take those scrapes and all those little things of gold running around. You keep them. You put them in a box. And then you put it on a grinding plate with a grinder that you can use either for pigments or for gold. This is a grinder, and you will have your gold on this plate. You will add honey and salt, and you will grind. You will grind for 5 hours, but there are ways to go faster. I will show you that. And after that, you will have a paste of honey and salt and gold, and you will put it in a mason jar and add some water, let it, deposit at the bottom, throw the water away, redo it, rinse, insert, and at the end you will hand with a little whippet of 2 grams of gold. You can decide if you want it very, very thin or a bit coarse, so you will grind more or not, and so on. I think I will do this in my Zoom session next Thursday, because people asked me to see that. So we will do some gold paint with it. I don't know where I am. I think it's more or less cool. I would like to give the opportunity to the next group to have the room a bit sooner than I had. So I will leave you there, and I hope there is still someone around. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. And I hope you enjoyed a little bit seeing the mess I deal with every day.
So that was really beautiful and
Thank
very,
you.
very, very fun to watch. And there are some questions in the chat if you want to go. You can answer them.
Fantastic. So I will go. I will disconnect and go and answer. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much. So that was brilliant.
Bye-bye.
Bye.